Welcome to Florida. In this video, I'm going to be talking with Chris Werner, professional beekeeper and one of our keynote speakers at Hive Life 2023. It was awesome getting to spend so much time beekeeping with Chris and his family. However, the conversations in between and during the meals were my favorite part. Now you may be asking, how do I get a Chris Werner queen? Well, you probably can't. When you raise queens at a very high level, the demand is also very high. And as funny as it sounds, someone's probably going to have to die before you can get on the list and move on up to get some Chris Werner queens. All right, now I've got some clips that Chris graciously let me take, and he gives us a lot of really good tips throughout this video on small hive beetles, inspecting colonies. We get to see some of the queen cells that he's raising for Bob Benny. What more can you want in a video? The thing of it is, it was just a wonderful day. It's definitely something I'm never going to forget. I missed going to the beach for this, and it was totally worth it. You can go to the beach any old time. How many queens do you think that you guys will raise out of this location roughly this year?
Well, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 13,000 queens, and probably another additional 16 to 20,000 queen cells that'll be sold to beekeepers that are raising their own queens. You'll notice we keep the lids marked and we keep the cell bars correspondingly marked, so if we end up with a problem with some cells, we can look to the cell builder and see. Here we have a whole bunch of misses. They didn't like those. They were started nicely, but the bees tore them down. But if Bob Benny's watching, those are his cells there on top.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the blue cell cups.
Well, he'll put them to good use.
Yeah, he will.
And I believe it's the last day of January, right?
This is the 31st. What do you think of that, Bob?
Well, Kamon thinks it's pretty awesome.
There you go. Because it's this time of the year, it's quite cool. We double bar the top. Later in the season, when these nukes are stronger and it's consistently warmer, we'll put one of these bars down here. And then it'll just be three, but it's always three separate bars.
Nice. And the pollen patty, even though there's good pollen, is just for
A little something extra.
a little something extra.
And if you look here, you'll see there are some small hive beetles that are starting to larva, but they'll never amount to anything. The bees will kill them, and this will never succumb to a larval problem. They being strong enough there, and they weren't able to get at these because they were underneath. See, where they're eating, there aren't any, but where they're sitting on the top bar, the little larva can thrive. But as soon as it's exposed to the bees, they'll kill them.
That's been my take on it as well, but not everybody agrees with me.
Yeah.
That's okay. My wife doesn't agree with me sometimes. As far as the pollen patty goes, have you heard about the University of Georgia working on a supplement to the patty to kill the larvae and small hive beetles?
I have not.
Yeah, they're working on that and hoping that you can put an additive in there and it'll actually, any larvae, that small hive beetle larvae that hatch in there will actually eat it and die almost immediately.
It concerns me because we're feeding it to larvae too.
Exactly.
So, something that'll kill one larvae but not another, I would be concerned about it. I won't go so far as to say I wouldn't use it, but I wouldn't be the first to purchase it. Let's put it that way.
It's not ever good to be the guinea pig.
No, it's not. Not especially with something like that. So yeah, we're pretty cautious about that. Again, if it's not a problem, it's not broke, don't fix it. We have to learn to live with these beetles just the way the bees do, and we have found that they tolerate them to a certain point. And it's really only our very sick or very weak hives, maybe a queenless colony, that succumbs and has a problem. But in our whole operation, and we've been through over 3,000 colonies 4 times now since they've gotten here, we've had nothing break down with small hive beetle. And that's arriving in Florida where there haven't been any bees all summer long, so the beetles that are in the area really are attracted to those hives quickly. They'll be present, but the hives, they're not breaking down beetles.
Now these hives are
no treatments. That's just the bees themselves strong enough, and the colony and the bee yard kept clean enough that they're not. And these are screen bottoms too, so anything that falls to the bottom, there's not a debris layer down there that they can get in and hide under.
Before we headed to lunch, we had to pick up a few buckets. And when I say a few, I mean we filled the whole truck bed full. Now, there's a lot of lessons to pick up in this next clip as Chris shows us how to inspect some bees.
Since May, that pad's been out.
They have put a lot of propolis on it as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit, but just look at how moist that is. That's from the, and if you, that's got acid in it. That's from the glycerin. Keeps them nice and soft. I'm going to move this frame with the drone comb in a little bit. Look at that beautiful pollen from the swamp.
Are we below or above sea level right now?
We are 92 feet here.
92 feet.
Yeah, this is low. As you go into Claremont, you go up quite a little bit. Above sea level, obviously. 92 feet under. Below. Pretty damp. This queen's doing a fine job. Move that frame in just a little bit and then try to entice her to put some drones in there for us. Okay.
That's one lesson right there that I think as a new beekeeper, a lot of them spend too much time inspecting their colonies and it stresses them out quite a bit.
It sure can.
And on average, what do you say? You've spent probably 2 minutes into a colony, sometimes less, sometimes a little bit more if the queen's running around a little bit.
Yeah, I would say 2 minutes is a good, if we have to find her, it might take us 5-6 minutes to find her, 7-8 minutes maybe. Well, we start to get that many minutes into a hive and we're running into issues with this many hives in a bee yard. The potential for swarming. And this is another colony that is just struggling to get its numbers up. But it's not for lack of trying. She's got every open cell already filled with an egg.
That pollen looks wonderful.
Isn't that pretty? You know where to put it. I'm not gonna space this one too much.
They're consuming the patty.
Yes, they've almost completely consumed that. This is 7 days ago that this yard was fed. So, and you see here, even though this is quite weak, we don't see any small hive beetle larvae.
Nice. How heavy typically are those patties of yours?
They're 1 pound.
1 pound.
Yeah. See, the screen bottom helps with the keeping the any of the debris from accumulating, and with no debris, the hive beetles have a hard time finding any place to hide. This one's got a lot of activity out front. Let's see what it looks like inside. That one's building real nicely. Let's see, this one, I can see 1, 2, 3 frames of cat brood, 4, and 5. I don't need to look any farther than that. Just the way they sound, the look on the outside. I don't really need to break it open. Look at her 1, 2, 3 bees we can see with 4, 5, 6, 7 with pollen on their legs. They're trying to find a place to deposit that here in the brood nest, so I don't want to keep them from their job.
You can just see a little bit of capped brood right there, and as a beekeeper,
I just need to see that. I know they're up in that box. This has got good weight in it from the feed we've been giving them. Everything I see from the surface right here indicates there's no reason really to dig down any further and disturb this hive on such a nice day. So that's the only thing I need to see. And this hive, with this mark that we've left on one of the last times we were here, for our marking, this means the hive is progressing in the right direction. If we see a plus on it, we felt it was doing exceptionally well. And then if we put just a strike down it, that would tell us that that hive wasn't doing too well. And what we like to see when we come around on these successive visits, are they going in the right direction or are they going backwards? This one is great. It's got a good population down at the bottom. Notice this. That's the one thing about the oxalic acid. When you're using a screen bottom, it will deteriorate the coating. Almost all of that is galvanized, and the acid does take the galvanization off.
Oh, beekeeping's all about trade-offs, it seems.
It is. Here that previous hive completely consumed their patty. This one just has a tiny bit left.
Well, and I wonder if they weren't so busy gathering pollen and other resources that they would have already consumed it.
They may very well have, yeah. And again, this was a side the boys didn't put buckets on, so this weight, they're still maintaining good weight from previous feedings and from honey they brought down from up north. So again, I'm seeing plenty of sign that this hive's doing real well. I don't really need to go down into it and disturb it any further.
Man, keeping bees in the mid-80s in January, large giant pizza, getting to hang around Chris Werner and his wife and their family. It was an awesome experience. They love each other, they love bees, and I just love being around them. So big thank you to their operation. I'm so inspired to get back and work my bees. Thanks to Chris Werner and his wife for coming and speaking at Hive Life 2023. Speaking of, I think I'm losing my voice again. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.